Hi everyone, welcome to today's whiteboard session. What I'd like to spend some time talking to you about is what is the new normal for hiring. In today's world, there is such a war on talent that we need to have a competitive edge over what works, what doesn't work, what are candidates looking for, and how do we address this market. So I'd like to spend the next bit of time talking to you about things I've done with my recruiting organizations that have worked and things that haven't worked. So I'd like to share our successes and areas that I think will help all of us gain a better understanding of the market today and how to attract top talent. So when we think about hiring talent today, what I believe is that it's not a hierarchy of needs. It is really more around what we call each piece matters. So when I think about hiring, I think about a puzzle, and there are pieces to the puzzle that make sense for us that candidates want to know about. What's important today when we think about the talent pool is that candidates have choices. So let's look over at our demand chaos. So when we think about a model like this, you look at the talent pool, which is tiny, and we look at the demand, which is large. So candidates have many choices in today's market. When they have these choices, how do we help identify ourselves as kind of standing out in the crowd? The way that I look at the world and work with my recruiting organizations is a puzzle, and every piece matters in the puzzle. So when we talk about each piece is important. Let's go through some of these to give you an idea of what I have found has worked. And again, some of these we've tried and they don't work, but the understanding is that we have to do new and different things in today's market. If we don't, we cannot attract talent because, again, there are too many choices for people. So let's look at the puzzles together. So when we think about what we say each piece matters, and we look at assessment, candidates want to understand where the fit is, and so do companies. That's a really big piece, is are you going to fit into our environment? So a lot of companies are working towards the skills assessment to understand, what do you bring to the table? What do we need? What do you bring to the table? And how do we determine that without doing interview after interview after interview? So assessment has become a big part of our world today, and how we identify a strong candidate for our openings, our opportunities. So that is a big piece. But what I would caution you against is don't do an assessment only, because again, every piece of this puzzle matters to candidates today. So if you're going to do an assessment, you need to make sure that it's two-sided. There has to be value in it to the candidates, not just value in it to the hiring manager. Make sense? You don't want to do something that is just one-dimensional. So assessment is a really important piece of the process in today's market, but it's not the only piece. So then if you go to the next step and we look at what we call trajectory. Trajectory is a word that I learned in a company that I worked for 4.5 years as a recruiter, and it's a very big part of the culture. What trajectory means is we want people that are on the upward part of their career path. This is not around number of years of experience, it's around someone's mindset. So let's take a look over here at what we call our Mount Potential, which I think is a great indicator of what this is all about. When we look at our great little hiker over here, this gentleman or woman is on the upward side of his or her trajectory. We want to hire talent that is here, moving to here, because that's what helps our organization to grow. When you look at people that have hit the top of their career, they're at their peak, most likely they're not going to move. Why would they? They've already gone through that trajectory travel. They don't necessarily want to make a move. We want people that are here, right? That's a really big piece. And it's really important when you're looking at talent that you assess someone's trajectory capability, not necessarily someone's skills. That makes sense to people? That's what we're looking for. So trajectory is a very big thing for candidates. I couple that with opportunity, because when we talk about opportunity for our candidates, it's important to remember that we always say this, but it is a candidate-driven market. So in today's marketplace, candidates are going to come in and they're evaluating us just as much, if not more, than we're evaluating them. Because again, go back to our demand chaos. You have candidates that have lots and lots of choices. So they're coming in here and they want to understand, what can we do for the candidate? That comes through what we talk about, the opportunity. So rather than saying, let me tell you about my rec, let me tell you about what I need as a company, we want to talk about what this opportunity will do for you and your career. We'll gain something, you'll gain something. So again, when we look at something like trajectory, we want someone on that upward side of his or her trajectory, and we want to provide an opportunity that allows that individual to really reach his or her potential. We go from there to what we talk about the candidate experience. That term today is widely used. Everywhere you go, every company you talk to, they talk about candidate experience. What I have found myself personally is, what is candidate experience? It really is supposed to be about how that person comes into an interview and, more importantly, leaves an interview. What is the mark that's been left on that individual? It's really easy to have a great candidate experience when you offer the person a job. What's tough is when you decline a person. You want to make sure that they're just as excited about your company as if they had received the position. And again, that's a hard thing to do, but it's important that you treat people with respect, courtesy, and you value their time. We always say to candidates, I don't want to waste your time. The reality is we don't really want to waste our time. So we have to make sure that the candidate doesn't feel this, that we are really cognizant of what the candidate is experiencing in that interview. I've always believed that as a recruiter that we should go on a job search, because the more that we go out to the market as a candidate, the better we understand what that experience is all about, and it helps us to have a stronger understanding of what the candidate is feeling when he or she comes into our organization. So candidate experience is a really important piece in today's market. It just can't be a catch-all word, a buzzword that we use. It has to mean something to the candidate. So you need to look at your organization and figure out everywhere along the way of an interview and an offer, is it making the candidate feel good about your opportunity? If you don't do that, you lose people. So if we continue on, because these pieces are all important, we talk about branding. Again, branding, like candidate experience, is another word that we use a lot today in our marketplace. The thing with branding is that you have to brand your organization, but it has to actually mean something. So I worked at a company recently, and I was asked to be involved with a colleague of mine in our employer value proposition, our EVP. So we worked with an outside firm, and we eventually, narrowed it down, and the word that came out that was going to be our brand was amazing. So everything we did for our organization was around amazing, and we actually branded our company around that term. So if you're doing branding for the sake of branding because the market expects you to do it, there's no value in it, and it doesn't mean anything to the candidates. So you have to decide who you are as an organization, who you want to be, and more importantly, what do candidates want to see, and is it real? So if you can't get a handle on branding to really have it be part of your organization, then do it when you can. But don't just do it because it's a word today, because that's an important piece that candidates look at. The next piece is when we talk about culture. This probably, I would say, is one of the most important things when we look at, every piece matters. Culture today is a living, breathing thing, and candidates look at culture just as much as we look at candidates. We all talk about the fit for our organization. What is the fit? Will this person fit in our organization? That is a moving, fluid target. We have to understand who we are as a company. What is our culture? Because we can, just like branding, we can say a culture, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's who we are. It may be who we aspire to be, but is it who we are today? So if we don't know what our culture is, how do we hire talent to fit into our culture? And more importantly, is everyone on board with the culture? So culture doesn't have to be a static, this is our culture and that's it. It's going to ebb and flow as your organization grows. You have to figure out, what is it? Do we stand by it? And are we in fact looking for talent that maps to the culture? It's really important to share with candidates too what we are as a company, who you are as an organization, because every candidate is going to ask you about culture. Tell me about the culture in your company. If we can't all speak to it, then it's not part of our organization. It needs to be as much a part of us as any piece of a company. The other piece that's really important too right now in today's market is what we talk about with diversity and inclusion. That is a very, very sensitive topic to the marketplace today. People are acutely aware of DI initiatives. Just like branding, just like culture, you have to actually have a diversity and inclusion initiative, and you have to stand by it. If you can't very succinctly tell a candidate what our DI experience is and what our DI initiatives are, then we don't have it yet. but you have to make sure that diversity and inclusion is part of it. Anything you read today's market tells you that any company that has a DI initiative that really invests in hiring diverse talent is exponentially more successful in the marketplace today than a company that does not focus on diversity and inclusion. So that has to be part of what our companies are today. Otherwise, you will lose talent. We're in a world today where people are really passionate about that whole concept of diverse workforce. And diversity doesn't just mean gender, ethnicity. It could be experience, it could be location. So I always say to people that when you look at diversity, make sure that it is all inclusive in your organization. So don't overlook DI. You have to have it now, but it has to be real too. As we move forward, we talk about giving back. Same as any of these pieces of the puzzle today, giving back is a really important thing to candidates. What do we do, or what do you do as a company to really give back to your community? Is it things like Habitat for Humanity? Do you go to shelters and help, pass out clothing? Do you work with children? Like, what is your outreach to today's market, and do you give employees time off to do those things that they're passionate about? Whether you do it collectively as an organization or it's very personal and you do it individually with you and your family, you have to be in a position that you can talk to people about giving back. Most candidates stay in certain demographic, really want to understand that giving. It's a part of who they are as people. You have to have that as a company, or you will not be able to compete in this marketplace. But again, like anything else, it has to be real. It can't just be, oh yeah, we definitely give back. It has to be, what do we do? And let me share with you. That is a great marketing tool. When recruiters talk to candidates, you want to say, let me tell you about what our giving back program is. That's more important sometimes than anything else, because that's what's going to attract talent. Growth. Growth is very similar to what we just talked about earlier as far as someone's trajectory. When you talk to candidates today, there are questions that get asked over and over again. What is your culture? What do you like? How can I grow in this organization? That piece is important. It's acutely important to candidates today. What is my growth going to look like? And sometimes people feel, okay, you're coming in for this role, you're already asking me about your growth. Don't be afraid to talk to candidates about this opportunity will bring you here, because we're all about making sure that we have people that want to stay in our company. But you can't do that unless you give people a chance to grow in their career. So why you want to grow as an individual, why wouldn't your candidates want to grow? So you've got to have those open discussions about, we're hiring for today because we have a role now, we have a need now, but for you, candidate, this opportunity will take you here. It's not just about come in and fill a job. It's come in and have a career. Career is very different today. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're in it for years and years, but candidates can bring tremendous value in a finite period of time. So don't overlook someone's desire for growth. It is actually a great question. If someone wants to grow in your organization, take that as a really positive sign. Moving along, we talk about total rewards. Again, similar to the same conversations we've been having, all these pieces are important. Total rewards is our new term for compensation and benefits. Don't be afraid to have those discussions, because candidates want to understand, what do you offer me? There are things that are really important to people. When you look at certain companies, depending on where you're located, a good portion of your talent bikes to work. Do you have a place that you can lock up the bikes for your employees? Do you have a safe place for them to do that? Do you give back? Do you give them money for commuting expenses? Do you give people paid time off to do their community service work? Do you offer pet insurance? It's a really big deal. A lot of companies now have kind of bought into the understanding that people like to bring their pets to work. So do you have pet insurance? That's more of an attraction than saying we have medical and dental, because medical and dental is a given in today's marketplace. If you don't offer that, people are not going to come to work for you. It's that simple. So talk about the things you do that are different in this market. That's where people are going to be excited about your organization. You know, what does it look like? Do you have remote workers? Do you give people the flexibility to come in later because they're handling family matters in the morning and work later? Like, what does that look like? That's all encompassing when you talk about total rewards. So highlight that. Recruiters shouldn't lead with total rewards, but it should absolutely be part of the conversation that happens regularly with candidates. Let them ask you questions, talk about it, be really open as a company about your total rewards, post it on your website, give people total visibility to your total rewards. You will not regret it. So when we look through all of these pieces right now, it is really important to continue to remember that it is a candidate-driven market. When we go out there to our candidates, we have a tendency to say, let me tell you what I need, not what is in it for you, what you're going to gain from this experience. I believe that when a company focuses on all of these pieces of the puzzle, you can have a really strong candidate experience and a really strong opportunity to find top talent. So what I'd love to hear from you today is, how did you feel about it? What things have you tried outside of the puzzle? The puzzle could be, there's no end to the puzzle. What works? What have you tried that doesn't work? Tell us what you think, how you feel. What should we try as an organization? Love to hear your feedback and your comments. Thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it.